How's it going? I'm Chris, and today we've just got a quick little riff lesson for Always on the Run by Lenny Kravitz and Slash. I think this is one of Slash's better riffs, to be honest. You don't hear him doing this kind of slower funk rock kind of a thing, especially, back when this came out, I think early to mid 90s, something like that. He may still have been in Guns N' Roses. I don't know. So this really has a nice marriage of rock and funk DNA here, especially broken up between the two different guitar parts. I'm assuming one is Slash, one is Lenny Kravitz. Slash's part is in the lower register, open low E stuff, but then what I'm calling the Lenny Kravitz guitar part has much more funk DNA in it, and is a nice kind of introduction to that style if you're more of a rock guitar player and want to explore something a little bit different. And it's just a great lesson in picking patterns, strumming, and keeping a good groove and rhythm going. So let's get into it. Before we get started, just a quick note on the subdivisions that we're going to be strumming here, or picking rather. We're breaking it up into 16th notes. So our down and ups are going to go 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. In general, we want that to be going pretty much constantly through the whole riff, as if you were strumming open chords with a song. If you've got all the notes down, you think you're playing the rhythms right, and it still just doesn't quite sound right, that could probably be the culprit. It's a huge part of getting the feel of riffs right. So let's get into it. We start with our open low E string, and then we're going to the next octave E. That's the 7th fret on the A string, and those both get down strums. I have a 16th note rest notated there, mostly just to show that fret 7 on the A string should be kind of short, so we want to make that staccato. Next, we're going to take our first finger and use that to play fret 5 also on the A string with another down pick, which then slides into fret 4, followed by our first mute. Now I've notated this as just being on the A string because we want to keep everything roughly around, the strings we're playing on. It's never an exact science, so don't get too hung up on aiming exactly for that A string. If you're muting everything else, it shouldn't be a problem if you clip the D string of the low E. No big deal. And after we do that, we get our first up pick. We pop back up with our second finger on fret 5 this time. So here's what we've got so far. We have another rest, another mute with an up pick, and then I'm kind of subtly shifting back up to use my first finger on fret 5, this time on the D string. We do a down pick on that, and then we pull off to open. When we do this kind of pull off, we want to kind of hit the brakes on moving our finger down on the next string. If you can tell, my finger kind of hangs on the G string right here. That's so, I don't let the finger fly away, but also so I don't get a bunch of extra strings ringing out that I don't necessarily want. So let's see if I can put this all together so far. Then we only have two more things to hit in this riff. We do a down pick on the mute, and then we pop back up with our third finger on fret 7, A again. Here's measure 1. So we get into measure 2, and it starts almost the exact same way. We still go. Halfway through is where the similarities end. Now, I have little number 4 written below fret 5 after the rest because we're going to do a position shift to use our pinky on fret 5, which everyone loves to hear. We grab that with an up pick, and then we hit it again with a down pick, so it's up, down. Then, while that's happening, we want to be sneaking our first finger over to fret 2, so it's ready for the pull-off that we have to do to that. So we have this. So that's kind of weird. That's a thing you might want to practice by itself. We do that because we need to set ourselves up to be in this open E minor pentatonic shape right here, which is doing down pick on the 3rd fret of the low E string. See how my second finger is just right there? That pulls off to 0. We skip up to the D string and hit it open with a down pick, and then hammer onto fret 2. Classic open E riff stuff. Here's measure 2. So I'll play through this whole riff now. A little bit closer to song tempo. A quick note about the rests versus the mutes as well. You don't necessarily always have to do a rest and always have to do a mute at certain points. If you mute, hit the string on every one of those 16th note rests, it's not going to sound bad at all. And if this is new to you, this style of music, and that helps you fill in those gaps where your hand is supposed to be moving, absolutely go for it. You can always take them out later once you've established the core foundation of the riff. Guitar 2, the slightly funkier guitar part here. We're playing out of mostly position 4 of the E minor pentatonic scale, because we're pretty much just hanging out on 4 notes most of the time. Most of these notes are going to be staccato, and most of them we kind of want to dig in pretty hard with our pick, so muting with our fretting hand is going to be a really important factor in getting this to sound right. I'll get into it as we go along through it. But we start with 2 mutes. Then we go into a bunch of down picks, which are marked as staccato because, again, we want those to be short and clipped. And that's going 5 on the D string, 3rd finger on 7 on the D string, down to 5 on the A, and then 7 on the A. So it's... Now you see that last time I did it, my hand was bouncing and moving a lot more. And I can do that because I'm muting really aggressively with my fretting hand over here. So if I accidentally hit an extra string, it's not going to make a difference because you want that timbre of like the hard attack of the pick. It's a huge part in so many kinds of funk riffs, a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers songs too. Can't Stop is a really good example. So we get to do another mute here, another down pick. That's kind of notated on the D string, but again, don't have to be precise. And we pop up on fret 5 on the A string. So from the beginning, we have this. All right, we have another rest, which means our next mute is going to be up again. And then we go down to 5 on the A string, hammer onto 7. So we have this. And I forgot to mention before, talking about the fret hand muting, like I've got my fingers all resting out here, especially my first finger is doing all the heavy lifting here, muting the top strings, and I've got my thumb wrapped around over top to mute the low E string. So I'm really just kind of, really holding on to the neck like this. You don't want to play a riff like this with your thumb down here. It won't help you get that muting right. You'll always be worried about the low E string. We move into measure 2, and like guitar 1, this part repeats for roughly the first half. But then it totally changes into a really cool thing. We do 2 more mutes, and while we're doing those mutes, we want to slide our hand up because we're going way up here to play these 2 ninth chords. So we first start with the 11th fret of the D string with our 2nd finger, the 10th fret of the G string with our 1st. Now here's where you got 2 options. The way I like to play these chords, because I generally like to do 1 finger per string, it's just the kind of player that I ended up turning into, I'm using my 3rd finger on 11 of the B and my pinky behind it on 11 of the high E. You can also just do a bar with your 3rd finger right there. I think a lot of people end up playing the chord like that. Just the other way is a little bit more comfortable for me. There's no right or wrong answer. So we hit this chord with a down strum, and then we're sliding up a fret. So the whole shape is staying the same. So the 11s become 12s, and the 10th fret becomes 11. Then you're going to strum that 2 more times down up, because we slid when we would have been doing up strum. You might recognize that from a fairly famous Prince song. And that's the second half of the phrase. So here's just measure 2. And here's the whole riff. And those are the riffs. Like I said, they are great in practicing your strumming, picking, good rhythm, all that sort of stuff. And a great exercise is to throw the track on and then go back and forth between playing guitar 1 and guitar 2 to see how they fit together over each other. It's really smart riff writing. Slash is pretty good at that, I guess. So you can find me here on the YouTube, or you could go to Instagram and find me at Chris K. Malloy for various other content. I'll see you later.